From the back here.
Mike Glover, resident of Kent.
First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Dealer for being so explicit
in saying that the likelihood of finding suitable rocks in Ennerdale is very low, and I think we should recognise that statement. He's had a rough time tonight, but at least he said very clearly that the likelihood of finding suitable host rock is low. I'm correct in what I heard. Dr. Dealer? Yep. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yep.
Secondly, I'd like to put...
Can you hear me at the front? No. Now you can. To Miss Ellen Davis, could you deny that if we were to go to stage 4, that the amount of disruption that would take place in terms of the excavation and the drilling that's going to take place to explore this rock, can you deny that that would take place?
It won't take place during stage 4. The current plans for stage 4 are desk-based studies looking at the existing information.
Sorry, can I then, at that stage when exploration takes place, which is to drill...
Stage 5.
Stage 5, right? Can you say that all that was described today, or this evening, in fact, is false?
If we were to explore the rocks under Ennerdale during stage 5, I cannot believe that it would be done in such a intrusive, almost crass, insensitive way as has been suggested. We would need to sit down and carefully design an investigation programme, and that programme, first of all, would need to involve the local community in drawing it up, and it would, as I've said before, need to respect all of the designated and protected sites, including the fact that that area is in a national park, as part of drawing up and getting approval for that programme.
Good luck with that.
We've taken your own document, Alan. We've taken your own NDA document, which suggests that you will have 20 deep boreholes. Frankly, we think that's probably an understatement. You needed 29 at Longman's Farm, but in a site like that, you need in excess of 20, given the complexity of the body. There really isn't a way of doing this without turning the place into an industrial site. You've got no choice.
Well,
and the NTEC report.
We clearly won't be allowed to turn Ennerdale into an industrial site.
Well, rule it out then. Rule it out. Rule out the rest of the site. It's a complete nonsense you're continuing with this, frankly. It makes no sense.
We're not going to turn Ennerdale into an industrial site. What I'm not ruling out, because we haven't looked at it, is the possibility, if it's decided when we've done some further investigations and the type of work that Jeremy's been talking about to look at the information and data that exists, if we think there's some value in further investigations in Ennerdale, then we need to see how we can do it without turning it into an industrial site. Now, you don't believe we can do that. I'm not saying we can do it, but I'm saying we don't know whether we can do it or not, because we haven't looked yet.
I'm saying we know pretty clearly, and we know that 75% of the area you're looking at is in the national park. And frankly, that should be ruled out at this stage. It's very clear.
Well,
let alone the SACs, triple SIs, etc., etc. So good luck with those.
Yeah, well,
I've moved to the back of the room because I'm looking for a possible host rock of rich questions in this area.
There's sites.
Suma, there's been a lot of talk about this being a voluntary process. I'm just interested to hear from all the people in this room. By a show of hands, how many people here would actually like to withdraw from the process now and not go to stage 4? I think that says a lot. And just on the other hand, is there anyone who would like to proceed to stage 4 who's in this room? Just one other follow-up question from that. There are lots of people like us who...
3 out of 600.
Yeah. Who really want to know what we can do about this. If we could hear what are the things that ordinary people can do to make our voices heard, because we're just not being heard at the moment.
I agree with you. Well, we're limited. We've got limited funds. We've achieved a lot with very little so far. If we lose at the end of the month, and it is possible, then we really do need to get properly organised, and somebody's going around with email addresses tonight. We really do need to get email addresses of people who are, who are sensible, like-minded people. But all we can do at the moment is a number of relatively limited things. We can write to our Cumbria County councillors, who are the people who ultimately will almost, well, I think will determine this process. So, on our website, which you've got details of on your seat, and there's some details of all the council's addresses, you'll find those. Please, you've got to write, if you haven't written already, to Cumbria County Council. You've got to tell them what you think. For what it's worth, copy in the Allerdale and Copeland guys and ladies. You've got to do that. We're trying to get a national campaign going. There are various petitions that, unfortunately, because the opposition, if you like, has been fairly disparate so far. So we've got, I don't know, at least 4 petitions going, but there's one that's really taken off recently, as a for example, that Peter Mayer set up in Ennerdale, which has, the last time I looked, had about 5,500 signatures. I think it's been, Peter, where are you? Could you just explain what's happening with that?
Peter's not actually here this evening. My name's Roger Parker. I'm from No End, which is, I run a bed breakfast opposite Ennerdale Fell. I'm from Ennerdale, and we have a website, www.noend.org.uk. There is a 38-degree petition, and that's on our website, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter. There are currently around 5,600 signatures on that, and that is due to be delivered simultaneously to Allerdale, Copeland and the County Council before they take their decision on the 30th. And for those of you that haven't signed it, that is one.
There's one on 38 degrees with over 5,500, around about 5,500. There's another one on 38 degrees addressed solely to Eddie Martin, which has about 1,000, I think, signatories. 1,300, right? Okay. There's another one that's on the government's e-petition website, set up by Colin Wales, which hasn't really caught fire yet. Last time I looked at that, it was over 1,200. But again, there's details on all of the websites about this. It might sound like a fairly trite thing to do, but what else can we do apart from try and make as much noise as we can with our local politicians, try and engender some interest from the wider national community. Now, the people on the stage, say for Alan and Dr. Dearlove, we've been trying our best to, over the last few weeks, with no resources whatsoever, to try and get the interest of the world at large, really. We've had some success. Spand in particular, in the Silloth area, have done very well. But quite frankly, we haven't been able to get this onto a national stage as yet.
Is the video
Okay.
on YouTube?
Yeah, the video's had about 1,300 views last time I looked.
There's still a lot of people here waiting very patiently to ask questions. So I'll ask this lady here to ask a question.
Hi, my name's Denise Bell. I live in Cockermouth, and I'm one of those awful off-comers that was born in Lancashire and moved all the way to Cumbria so I could walk the fells, because I think it's a beautiful place to live. I want to ask the question because there's a lot been made of compliance, Mr. Ellis. A lot of the stuff from MRWS is about compliance of the community, compliance of this. Do you not accept that the compliance of any community depends on the question being asked and also the context of that question? Because I happen to be rather sceptical. I've worked in local government and I've seen how surveys are drawn up in conjunction with consultants being paid tens of thousands of pounds deliberately to get the answer the local council wanted out of its local community. The question is very important. And secondly, the context. The context in which this question is being asked is in the depths of one of the deepest recessions this country's seen. We haven't just got one dip of recession, we've got a double dip and possibly a triple dip of recession. And the context in which you're asking that question is really, maybe we should turn it round on its head, and maybe we should say the billions of pounds that were spent on bailing out the banks, instead of jailing those bankers, should be spent on creating jobs in West Cumbria, rather than trying to bribe a community that's facing a massive recession, and we are being bribed, people are being bribed. Lord Hutton dares to call people opposed to this the scaremongers.
Yeah.
My question is, who is the real scaremonger? The real scaremonger is people like Lord Hutton. And finally, to everyone here who puts up their hands saying they're opposed, can I ask the question, who can put up their hands and say, you can turn up to the meeting on the 30th in Carlisle and show our opposition and bring your banners and bring your guitars, the guy who's done the song, you know, from Solway, and if you can't come, please put up your hands and say you'll talk to your neighbour, your friend or anyone else and say, yes, I'll be there, and if I'm not there, I can get someone else there on the 30th in Carlisle.
And I'm one of those who put my hand up a few minutes ago and there were 5 or something in the room that want to give it a little bit more thought, a little less emotion perhaps. I don't want a nuclear dump in Cumbria if the geology is wrong. But what I am concerned about is a lot of emotion, a lot of nice pictures. And my question is this, we saw, and I'm asking it now, sorry, I forgot the second, the third speaker's name, who was speaking on behalf of Professor Smile. We showed lots of nice pictures of Ennerdale and described some industrial sites that we're going to be around. Is it necessary, and why do you assume it's necessary, to have the industrial sites actually in the valley of Ennerdale? Why couldn't the temporary industrial sites, the buildings and so forth, be put on the western side of the mountain, which I think is more likely to be where the actual depository will be, rather than actually in the beautiful Ennerdale Valley itself? Thank you very much.
No, it simply isn't possible. You have to drill pretty much from above. You can use inclined drilling, but you have no choice but to cover Ennerdale Fell with roads because you've got to take very large machinery up there. So you simply can't do this from the west. There is a sort of some suggestion that you could do this non-intrusively, and that, frankly, is complete nonsense. This is not science from the moment. We're talking about, you know, maybe in 500 years' time we could, but at the moment, you really can't do this. You've got to drill from the surface, and there is no choice but to turn Ennerdale Fell into an industrial area.
Thank you for that answer. Now, one last, this lady here, I fear for my life if I didn't let her speak, so...
I will be very brief. Not questions, just 2 points. I'm Diane Standen, and for the past 6 months I've been compiling a list of businesses who are opposed to a GDF in West Cumbria. So if you're a business and you want to add your name to that list, it's going to the councils very shortly. You could contact me through my website, which is Creative Textile. And the second point is, you can actually ask questions to go forward to each of the council meetings on January 30th. You need to contact the Democratic Services officers at each council. But you can actually formulate a question and go to the meeting and have it asked and have it addressed. There you go.
Right, thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry to have to draw this to a close, but we really must. If there's any other questions you've got, there's ways and means of asking them. Before you